Hey, welcome back to Whip Tips. Listen, this episode we got something special that we're going to do, and it's kind of a good news, bad news type of thing. I'm Doc, and let's go ahead and get started talking about what parts you want to avoid and maybe where you want to steer yourself toward when you're looking at fixing up your XJ. And specifically, as usual, I'm talking about experience with my 2000 XJ, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, y'all know if you've been watching this channel, and by the way, I apologize. There's this good news, bad news situation that I'm facing. Is that the good news is none of my cars need fixing, so I haven't been able to do any videos about fixing different things on cars. And you know, if you've been watching the series, my Honda got we're gonna have to junk that because of a blown head gasket, and it's just old and disgusting on the inside. I don't want to work on that car anymore, to be honest, and I don't think any of my kids want to drive that car. So we've got a new car in the family, a Mercury Sable station wagon. It's a nice car. It's only got 30,000 something miles on it, so it's going to last for a while. And one of my kids is driving that now. Hopefully I'll be able to do some videos on that soon. But in general, everything's going well, and I guess that's a good news thing. Bad news is, like I said, no videos for fixing cars, so I'm going to have to put my ugly face in front of this camera and talk to you about car-related stuff. Now, along those lines, first thing I want to talk about today are Jeep parts. You all know that all the videos I've been doing in the Cherokee therapy series are related to a Jeep that I got from Copart. I bought it for $1,300. Paid way too much for it, by the way. If you want to buy a cheap Jeep like that, just look at Facebook Marketplace, and there's always somebody who just wants to get rid of it. $600, $700. Even today, when Jeeps are kind of rising in value, they're old enough that you can find ones that have been used and abused, but still you can kind of nurse back into shape. So that's my advice there right off the bat. Avoid Copart. And second piece of advice is, I did not know what I was doing when I started because I had never owned a Jeep before, and I learned very quickly, I'd say within about the space of 6 months, that you cannot buy the cheapest aftermarket parts for these things. In some cases you can. For parts that don't really matter structurally or for running the engine, like if you want a headlight bezel or something, yeah, go ahead. Go find the cheapest one you can get and go with it. But for things that matter, like bearings and those sorts of things, no, do not do it. Look, this is a Jeep. They just got sued recently for this problem that they have with death wobble. Now, all solid axle cars or vehicles can get death wobble. But Jeep has gotten it especially bad, and the courts agreed that there is a design flaw somewhere in their front-end suspension. And the suspension, although not identical, is very similar throughout their model years, whether it's a Wrangler or an XJ. We're not talking about the fake Jeeps out there, the Fiats, right, like the new Cherokees and all that kind of crap. But when you're talking about XJs specifically, in my experience, that led tremendously to my death wobble, and I'm going to go ahead and go down a list and tell you the parts I bought specifically and my advice on staying away from certain things. So let's go ahead and get started with the list. Here we go. Number 1, Omix ADA steering components. Omix ADA, like when I first got my Jeep, I thought this was like OEM type stuff, and I don't know, maybe it is. Somebody in the comments tell me what it is. But man, it's basically a tie rod and a drag link that I got for my steering, and I had not done anything to make it an off-road capable vehicle. I just wanted to be a daily driver, and but I did do a 3-inch lift that I got from Rough Country, and that's a whole different story. But the Omix ADA tie rod and drag link set that I got failed within a month or something. I mean, it was ridiculous. That thing was had loose ball joints and just was not great, and it definitely contributed to death wobble, which I got within maybe just a couple of months of replacing the whole front end suspension with these cheap parts. So I was not impressed by Omix ADA. Your mileage may vary. Let me know in the comments if you have different experience with these parts. I imagine that some of their other things that again are not important, like steering, they're just fine to buy. But this specifically, the tie rod and drag link set that I got, and I'll put a link to it below. The link is not a recommendation to buy. It's just so that you know what it is. In fact, I might not put a link. I'll just put the description of the parts. So anyway, number 2, Moog control arm bushings, upper control arm bushings. These are the cleveite and steel bushings that you put in the front axle. I'm running a Dana 30 front axle that you press in and press out of the holding areas. And I've done a few videos on that. Just look at my channel. But in general, Moog parts, I don't have a problem with. I use their bushings in other applications. And I'm not sure, okay, I'm not sure about this. Specifically, I'm not talking bad about Moog in general. You know, they used to be a great company. Now they're okay. A lot of their stuff is done in China and done on the cheap. But these specifically, I think when you're talking about your upper control arms and bushings, go high end. I mean, that's a critical component, holding your axle, basically keeping it from kind of rolling forward and backward. It takes a lot of wear and tear, even if you're not going off-road. So get yourself the best components there as possible. Again, I don't know if these Moog bushings were part of the problem with me getting death wobble 2-3 times, but it was something I replaced, and I haven't had a problem since. Number 3. DEA Mardon car, some sort of, I went to Rock Auto and I needed a transmission mount. Man, finding aftermarket, first of all, you can't get the OEM Cherokee transmission mounts. And second of all, if you get a polyurethane transmission mount, it sends a lot more vibration into the frame, and I didn't want that. I wanted a rubber cleveite transmission mount. Man, I searched high and low, and the long story is, the short of it is that there are no good options out there. If you have an aftermarket kind of OEM style transmission mount that you swear by, put a comment, because I'm really curious about that. I went to Rock Auto and got this transmission mount, and it's really cheap, really horrible. For my year, the transmission mount is supposed to be higher on one end by like a 1/4 inch or something, and then lower because there's supposed to be a slight slope going from the engine through the transmission into your transfer case. Mine's 4-wheel drive. And this thing was like level, on like same height on both sides. So I had to put in aluminum, like 1/8 inch aluminum spacers on one side to give it the proper angle. The other problem you have with this is because it's not properly dimensioned, and I definitely got the wrong one. You know, there are cross member issues. You have to make sure that you've got one that's either center or off center a little bit. I definitely got the wrong one for my year, make and model, and the thing was just wrong. Even now, my exhaust rides on the cross member and rattles because the transmission mount is just all wrong. And I've done my best with those aluminum inserts, and I got it to the point where it's just a tiny bit off the cross member, but it's still close enough that it whacks every once in a while and still rattles when I crank up the car. And so just, you know, do yourself a favor. Do some work and research. Some of the aftermarket high-end ones made out of polyurethane are probably good, but you're going to have vibrations. Just be aware, right? I'm not necessarily knocking these guys because they're all bad as far as I know, but you just want to be aware and know that that's what you're walking into with these aftermarket transmission mounts. Number 4, I went on Amazon and I got the cheapest. I put in a 3-inch lift, and I knew I was going to need an adjustable track bar. I knew nothing about Jeeps. I went ahead and got this thing called a Tunings World, made in China, adjustable track bar. It wasn't actually exactly cheap. I can't remember how much it was. I'll put the price below. I'll look after this. Waste of money. Within 3 months, that thing failed. And that was my primary reason for my first death wobble experience, was that thing failed, and so my axle was just going side to side. So stay away from cheap track bars. That is another critical component for your steering. And if you have to go to some of these high-end fab places online, I'm not going to name any, but you know what I'm talking about, made in America, do it. That is worth the money. I actually got a rough country track bar. I did a video. I'll put a link to that also. I got a rough country track bar after this bad experience with Tunings World, and that adjustable track bar came with a new bracket that's really solid. Happy with it, but the bushings that rough country comes with are not that great, and I had to replace those with some polyurethane solid ones, and haven't had a problem since. So definitely do yourself a favor. If you got the bucks, go with a high-end American-made adjustable track bar. Number 5. I don't even know what brand these were, but they're these, again, I got them on Amazon, I think. I'll try and find them. They were these cheap upper control arms, original style, right? Because even though I did a 3-inch lift, I had read, and it's probably correct, I had read that you don't really need to get adjustable uppers for control arms. And yes and no, but that's not the subject of this video. The control arms I got were original style, and they're really thin metal. And I have no doubt that those cheap bastards had something to do with my death wobble coming on. And so if you're getting a hint here, death wobble in Jeeps can be caused by primarily track bar issues, but also it can be caused by anything. It's all a very sensitive system that has very tight tolerances, and as your bushings start to get worn and fail, you reach this critical point where it can't dampen vibrations that are caused by your wheels hitting a bump or excessive speed or something, and it becomes resonant, and it gets worse and worse until you slow down. So, go high end, go high dollar, you get what you pay for in this case, and it's your steering. You don't want to screw this up. I've heard stories where death wobble can contribute to things like cracking your frame or ruining your steering box, and you don't want that, trust me. Now I forgot what number I'm at. 6? I hope it's 6. Okay, last but not least, I steer away from Crown. And I'm not talking about, there's Crown and RT, which are one company, and I stay away from RT as well. But there's another company called like Crown Performance or whatever that makes steel braided brake lines. I have those steel braided brake lines, recommend them, they're great. I'm talking about the other one, the Crown RT brand. And I got, again, not knowing what I was doing, I got rear axle bearings, wheel bearings on the outer part of the rear axle. I'm running Chrysler 8 1/4 axle. And those bearings, after 3 months, failed on me. And I started hearing that roaring sound from the back. Didn't know what it was at first, couldn't really locate it. Took a while to figure it out. And the way I figured it out was finally, because one started to rub up against the actual seal, the rear diff fluid started coming out the axle and going down into my brakes. Not a good thing, very unsafe. So if you want to go Crown for things like, what are those things called? Fender flares or whatever, plastic pieces, those sorts of, yeah, fine, go with Crown. But if it's a part your car depends on, I will never buy them again. And I swear by my statements here. So anyway, that's really, I think that's it. Those 6 for now I would stay away from. Some brands that I really have had great luck with. I have Core 4x4 Tier 3 adjustable upper and lower front control arms. Fantastic. I rebuilt my entire front end because I had three death wobble experiences. I've done videos on all of them. You can go check it out, the causes and all that. And so I basically had to replace my ball joints. If you're doing ball joints, only get Spicer. Maybe there's some better ones out there. Leave comments, but Spicer's really good. I had to redo all my U-joints in the axles. I had to redo the control arms. Basically everything that's related to your steering except shocks and springs, I had to replace. And I went high end this time. And in terms of control arms, upper and lower adjustables from Core 4x4, man, I'm so happy with those. I've been running this setup now for months, and I've had no hint of death wobble. And I've hit some pretty big bumps. I try and avoid them because now I'm terrified of death wobble. But in general, those control arms are fantastic. So Core 4x4, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Great stuff. I know there will be a debate in terms of off-road use of Core 4x4, etc. And that's fine. Have that debate, but I'm not getting involved. For my purposes, which is mainly driving around and occasionally doing light off-roading, Core 4x4 Tier 3, more than enough. Absolutely beautiful, beautiful components. Expensive, but beautiful. I think I paid 600 and something bucks for them. The other thing I've done videos on is I replaced all my bushings and stuff with all polyurethane, high-end. Take a look at those videos. And haven't had any death wobble, like I said, since then. So anyway, that's it. Hope you found this video useful. You may be seeing this ugly face more often now that I've got everything under control with my Jeep. But anyway, I really appreciate you guys watching. I just hit 150 subscribers. Yeah, I know that's not many, but for just started out, I'm happy with that. I'm making really low end, not putting a lot of effort into these videos, just having them out there because maybe they'll help somebody here and there. But I really appreciate you guys watching. Definitely like and subscribe if you haven't. Doc out. Oh, you made it to the end. That's awesome. Listen, I'm Doc. I'm the one who's, the voice behind these videos. And I really appreciate you taking the time to actually watch the whole thing. That's fantastic. If you've got time, if you want to, if you like the video, hit like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the bell button so you get notified of new videos when I put them up. I'm going to try and do one a week. And I'm going to do a bunch of Instagram stuff, so make sure you follow me there and on Twitter. Instagram's going to be the shorter stuff. I don't have any merchandise yet. I'm planning to as the channel grows. If I succeed, I'll get some merch. For now, if you really want to help me in another way, you like these videos enough, I'm going to put links to my books in the description of the video. I'm a science fiction author in my spare time as well, so I'm juggling a lot of balls. But anyway, I really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you at the next one. Hey, do me a favor and turn this junk off. I don't know how to deal with tech.